Hello, everyone, and welcome to the initial broadcast of the Garf Network. I'm Matt.
And I'm Eric.
Welcome, everybody.
Hi.
And we're also proud to have along with us CEO of the Garf Foundation, Suze Romero. How are you doing, Suze?
I'm great. How are you guys?
We're doing good, thanks.
This is such an exciting inaugural for the network. I think it's a terrific thing.
Yes, and thank you for joining us tonight for a little bit.
Of course. Who would have known that, 2.5 years ago we'd be in this place. So I'm excited about it. And you are so right. The intro is terrific. Yay! And I'm excited that we have a great guest too. So, I just think that this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for fans of the horror world to get together and rap about things that we like to rap about. So it's exciting.
And we want to thank you for coming on board and launching us, if you will. And,
of course.
And Matt and I we're super excited to be on board and to be doing this. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And
it's our pleasure. And as I said, we couldn't be prouder of this network and you fellows hosting it. It's going to be a great thing.
We're excited to get rocking and rolling and do lots of fun new things with you guys and talk to new people and really get the word out.
Yeah, that's absolutely. We've got lots to talk about. So
Mm-hmm.
We really do. So it'll be fun. And, I was so happy about our second newsletter. So that's all out there and hopefully we'll get a big following and we'll talk about horror because we love it.
Very good.
Why we're here.
Hey.
And we'll provide the link again later. If you haven't already, for God's sake, sign up for the Garf newsletter. All sorts of good stuff in there.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We want your emails. In the newsletter, I just want to do a little plug because in the newsletter, we have a link to a survey about a museum experience. And we want your opinion on why you would go to a museum, what you expect to experience at a museum. We want your opinion, and we'll gather the data and talk to some folks about what we've come up with. So we have a feasibility study in our back pocket, and now we want to know what the folks think about a possible museum, maybe in Pittsburgh. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
maybe.
No,
so we'll see.
I'd go. Obviously,
yeah. We hope so.
Yeah. So,
because if you two boys didn't go, that would be a problem.
Agreed. I can't think of a better place for it to be.
Yeah. So anyway, there's a survey. There's a link. Please feel more than free to go and give us your opinion. That would be terrific.
Yep. Yeah. So head to the GeorgeRomeroFoundation.org, sign up for the newsletter. We also have launched a Patreon, which is going to help as a massive fundraiser for the foundation. You guys love George. You love hearing about George and new things from Suze, and it helps. The Patreon will have a lot of stuff coming on it. We're going to do some exclusive content that you guys are really, really going to love. So please donate. We're a nonprofit. We need your funds to keep going. You guys want to see stuff, let us know.
Yeah.
Go to the Garf website, go to the Garf Facebook page, let us know what you want, let us know what you want more of, so we know what to give you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the meantime, have fun. I'm going to definitely be listening, and so have a good time tonight, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suze.
Thank you.
Nice to have met
Nice
you,
to meet
Ed,
you.
and we'll talk again.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
All right. One moment, please. All righty, there we go.
Hey,
All
guys,
right, Ed.
we're on the same level. Here we are.
Yeah.
We're back. Yeah, we organized this earlier. Where we were all our talking heads were on the same level. We got out tools and everything.
And just an early note, Ed, I'm watching the comments here. You got a little bit of a fan following going on here. Lots of folks saying hi to you.
Wow.
So
well, hi back, whoever you are. Love you guys.
Well, here's one for you, Ed. Can you see that one?
Okay. Yeah, you know who that is, don't you?
Looking good, Ed.
Looking good. It's
right.
Yeah. So Ed Polgardy, producer of many films. A lot of people are getting to hear you about you from doing The Wretched, but you've done Monsterama, Laid to Rest, which I just watched last night, Masked Mutilator. You've got a pretty extensive career here over the last couple of years. So how did you?
It's amazing. I had to pinch myself.
Yeah, it's always good. Keep yourself in check. So give us some background. How did you get into producing? What led you to the producer role?
Well, let me tell you, I never ever expected to be a producer, because as I was growing up, I wanted to be a filmmaker, meaning someone who wrote and directed films. And, that's what I started out, dreaming about. And I did. I wrote some scripts in my 20s that actually got picked up in LA. I got deals on them, but they never were made. So I kind of got sidetracked at that point. Actually, if you go way back, I started out as an actor. I did a lot of theater, and I did some movies and so forth. But my heart was always in actually creating something, that kind of like creating real estate, especially in genre films. I love genre films. I grew up with them, and I wanted to have a piece of that action. You know what I mean? I wanted to, have something that people would talk about at some point in time. And, I started out writing, and I had something go into development called Skins. And it's funny because I was flown to LA to do rewrites on the script, and it was Smart Egg Pictures wanted to make it. And they had done Nightmare on Elm Street. Mm-hmm. So I was in seventh heaven. I think I was 23 or 24 years old when it happened. And, I was doing that project with a director, Armand Mastriani, who's done hundreds of films. And he's a good buddy of mine. We've made a movie together. And actually, and another guy from back east named Dale Schneck. And all of us wrote that project. And came out, and I wanted something to inspire me while I was in LA. So I brought The Zombies That Ate Pittsburgh, the book about George Romero and the Pittsburgh crew and all their films and so forth. And lo and behold, when I got out here, we actually started to work with Tom Savini. It was just like a total fluke, but here I am reading about Tom Savini in this book, effects artist Tom Savini. And, he's on our team, working with us, creating creatures and so forth. So you can imagine at 20 something, I was just like, incredibly high, on life. So anyway, when we went through that whole process, by the end of it, the movie never got made. And I kind of felt down in the dumps about it. And I wanted to get my material out there. So somebody had suggested taking some ideas that I had and pitching them as a comic book series, which I did. And I got 5 offers like right away on a pitch I did. And back then I thought, this is how it happens. You go into comics, you throw something out there and people offer you money to do it, but no, I got really lucky. And, Dark Horse wanted to do it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with comics.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They were one of the companies that wanted to do it. And I kind of went with an indie company because they wanted to do a really big push on it, with a graphic novel afterwards and all that stuff. Dark Horse was going to serialize it in some anthology book they had. So that wasn't what I really wanted to do. And this was a book called From the Darkness, and it developed a huge fan following around the world. And it ended, got me into an editorial position with Jim Shooter, who's also from Pittsburgh. Jim ran Marvel Comics for years, and I worked with Jim at Defiant. I was a senior editor there, so I was doing comics. So my whole life shifted into comics for probably 10 years. From that, I went down to Florida, and I worked for a company called Big Entertainment and worked with celebrity creators like Neil Gaiman. You guys probably have heard of Neil Gaiman.
Yep.
I worked with Mickey Spillane, Leonard Nimoy, John Jakes. I mean, a whole slew of people. It just was an incredible experience. And while I was down there, I also did the adaptation of From Dusk Till Dawn, which kind of, I was dying to do that because it was movie oriented, you know what I mean? And so I got to work with Quentin and crew on that, and that did well.
Did you see the film first?
I did not. It wasn't out yet. It was being made. You know what I mean? So I had actually, the first script I got was Quentin's original script, which was very different from what the finished movie became. But by the time we actually wrote it, I had a copy of the new script, and that's what we did the graphic novel based on the actual script that got made. So that was it was just such a cool experience, doing all that. And, even working with Leonard Nimoy, he used to come to the office and he wanted to hang out in the bullpen. He didn't like the people who ran the company, were more of the money people and all. He wanted to hang out with all the editors because he was a super creative guy and just a wonderful guy to hang with and talk with and, collaborate with, basically. So anyway, so while I was there, 911, no, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Something happened at that company. I guess they were kind of not doing so well, and I saw kind of the writing on the wall. So I jumped into a producing position at a television station, and I did a lot of documentary type programs there. And I got nominated for an Emmy one year for something I did on cancer, which was a really cool doc that I made. I'm really proud of it, and I didn't win. So the following year, I got nominated for a doc I did on the IRS on their e-file program, and I didn't go to the ceremony, and I won. I ended up. I got a call at one point, and somebody said, "Ed, you won the Emmy for the program." And I said, "Really?" So anyway, and then while I was working television there, I did a lot of stuff. I worked with Mark Hamill, Mariette Hartley. I did a lot of, celebrities there. And I actually ended up directing a lot of those shows, like the lead-ins to the show were always like, there would always be a throw from Mark Hamill because he was the host of the show called .com. So I got to work with Mark a lot. And
Ed, I've got to ask, how did you make the transition from comic book artist to directing documentaries? I mean, how was there a bridge between?
I've always been good at picking things up really fast. And I went in as a PA, like basically. I think I was making like $200 a week. And it was ridiculous, And within like 3 months, I was a producer. I mean, I jumped right in, I was doing interviews and, it happened super fast. And then, it just kept going from there. I ended up senior producer at this company called TV Interactive. And that company got sold and they wanted to cut costs. So they fired all of the top earning employees. And we were the guys that kind of built the company, like designed, the look of the shows, did all that. And as soon as they did that, the company went down the tubes, I think within a year. Like they you know, they promoted some people in the company who were good people. Don't get me wrong, but you know, there's something to be said for experience. You know what I mean? And it just, you know. So anyway, that's what happened there. And but I loved that place. I loved working there. It was a really good formative time in my life. You know, but when that happened, that was right around the time of 9/11, and that was devastating to the economy. You know, and they, you know, a lot of the places in Florida were closing their doors. You know, the television industry there really suffered for a while. So I said, you know what? I want to make movies. I've gotten away from this. What am I doing? You know? So I said to my wife, I said, let's move to LA. I want to just pick up and move. Let's do it. You know, I had one friend out in LA who moved there in his 20s, and he's super successful now. His name's Daniel Robo. He was on Matlock. I don't know if you know Dan.
I've met Dan. Yep.
Yeah, Dan's a good buddy of mine. I've known him for years. We were in plays together. That's how far back we go. We were in a comic book club when we were kids together. So it was like, you know, I've known Dan forever. And anyway, so I come out to LA, and I got invited right away because I'm a, you know, genre film lover. I got invited to this breakfast. It was like a Sunday morning breakfast. It was all creators in the industry. So I thought this would be a great place to get to know people. Greg Nicotero, who's the Greg Nicotero, you know, worked with George, and now he's doing Creep Show. You know, Greg was part of that group, and we would meet for breakfast and talk about everything, monsters and this and that. And then we would go to this store that we love, Creature Features, and we would buy stuff. You know, there was the new magazines were out or whatever. And while I was there, I ran into a guy who made what they call a walkabout costume for me when I worked at Big Entertainment for the Leonard Nimoy project. This guy, Kenneth Hall, he did a costume for us for conventions. It was a big rhino character. Okay. And he was there at the breakfast. So Ken says to me, "Oh, Ed, I heard you were producing television in Florida. I need a producer to do this movie I'm doing. And, do you know anybody? You know, do you know anybody in your circle?" And I thought about it. I said, "Well, let me look through my Rolodex tonight. I may be able to give you a name." You know? So I go home and I'm like, what am I doing? I could do that. You know, I mean, I've done other things that I, you know, just jumped into. I thought, well, I probably could do this, you know? So I went back and I said, "Ken, how about letting me produce it? I produce television. You know, I can do this." So he said yes. And I mean, I jumped in feet first. I learned movie magic through this job, which is a software you use to do budgets and schedules. I mean, I did everything on the job. I also was the first AD on that show. So it was like, you know, I was wearing multiple hats, you know, on this first movie. And we made The Halfway House for like 80 grand. I mean, it was like really a low budget, you know, it was self-financed and everything, but it looks really cool. I remember showing it to Armand. He said, "You made a real movie." I said, "I hope so." You know? I hope I made a real movie. So when we did that movie, we got really good critical response, and Don Landis gave us a really great quote. So a lot of people asked me, "Hey, you did a great job on that. You know, will you do our movie?" And it just went from there. I mean, it just kind of snowballed from there. So,
well, real quick on the Halfway House, what method of distribution did you utilize? I mean, was it direct to video, or was it a network debut?
It was a direct to video movie. And you know, what's an interesting story about Halfway House is that let me back up just a little bit, because when I was in Florida working on television and comics and all that stuff, Dale Schneck, who was a writing partner of mine when I started my career, he and some guys in Pennsylvania wanted to do this script that Dale and I wrote called Masked Mutilator. It was a pro wrestling slasher film. You know, people would get killed in extensions of pro wrestling movies. So, you know, hammerlock, snap his neck, you know, whatever it was. And so we had this script, and we all got our money together, kind of like the guys when they did Night of the Living Dead. We all pitched in some money, and they made the movie. Now, I was in Florida, and I couldn't get up to participate other than I stuck some money in, and I would talk to Dale about, you know, rewrites and whatever was going on and give my opinions and all. And I think I visited set once. But now that I'm kind of, you know, in here in LA, I have really good friends over at Severin Films, which is a Blu-ray and DVD distribution company. They do a lot of genre films. And I thought, you know, Masked Mutilator was just kind of languishing. It was sitting there in, you know, they didn't even finish it. They had a lot of footage, but there were some holes in the storyline. So Dale came up with this idea, let's write a wraparound sequence, and that'll glue everything together, you know, for the movie. And I said, oh, that's a great idea. So he wrote this wraparound, and they shot the wraparound, and they cut it in, and it worked. Now, I got to say, we had very little money. So the editing part of that, we had to go out to freebies and, you know, college students, graduates that know editing and whatever. And they put it together. But what they did was, when they assembled the movie, they used all different formats. So, you know, they had different speeds on the, you know, a shot as a film and then transferred to video, and they were editing the video. So they were editing digitally. And they had it at different frame rates and all kinds of stuff. So there were all kinds of technical issues with what we had as our finished thing. And we also had canned music that we didn't own. So I found a composer who did a score for us, who did a terrific score. He's from Italy. He worked under Ennio Morricone, I'm a big fan of Ennio's work. And so my friend, you know, did the score for us. He wanted to break into the American market. So, you know, he did it just for a back end deal, which was really nice of him. You know, so he would get a credit with an American film. And and then we had to go in. Severin was really good about this. They had to re-edit the movie, basically make all the footage match, you know, all the master files, the digital files match, and then put it into the picture. So it was a major undertaking, and it came out and did very well. A lot of people like it. It's kind of got a cult feel to it because it was shot in the 90s, and the wraparound, which is supposed to be now, was shot on video. So it looks like it was intended that way. You know what I mean?
The stuff in the 90s was on film?
On film. It was on 16 millimeter film.
Okay.
Yeah. So
now, where can we see Masked Mutilator?
You can see it. Severin has it. I think Masked Mutilator, I believe, is on Prime, Amazon Prime too. If anybody wants to see it, you know, it's a down and dirty, homegrown film, but it has amazing fight sequences in it. You know, it's got a good basic storyline and some amazing fights because there were real pro wrestlers in it. Like I said before, it was a pro wrestling movie. And Brick Bronski and Doug Yazinski, they're ex-wrestlers. They're in it. A guy named Tom Taylor, who's a martial artist who's really good at fighting. And the fights are brutal. They're really, really well done, really well choreographed and so forth. So it's got a lot of really cool things in it, and it's developed a little bit of a cult following now. And I'm just so happy to see it out because all those people who put work into that movie, and it sat in it sat in Dale's basement for years. So, you know, to then see it come out, it was nice. It was a nice reward for them. Yeah. So,
Ed, I had a quick question, but
I want to let me mention the name of the composer. His name is Fabrizio Bondi. I didn't mean to. I was talking so fast there, I forgot to mention his name. And he's terrific. He's terrific. Yeah. So
my question was, and you know, and this is regarding, or might be helpful information for independent filmmakers, is, I mean, did the cost to to add the wraparound and to do the re-editing and the additional score, I'm guessing that was more than the original film cost to make.
Oh, well, when we did the deal, a lot of times what they do is they'll give you some upfront money, and then whatever the cost is that it takes them to finish, they'll subtract that from whatever your profits are. So you don't have to put any. We didn't have to put any for that. So, but it was,
Wow.
it worked out. It worked out, and so anyway, so I got that film set up. Cut to Halfway House. Let's get through these movies. Halfway House, was the first movie I did here, and Mary Warnov was in that, who's a cult icon. Anyway, when we did that movie, it came out on DVD. We had shot it on 720p, which is a high def format. It wasn't full 1080, but it was a lot better than DVD quality. And David wants to put that out now, so we're going to put that out in a Blu-ray, which is nice too, because everybody will have a really good high def copy. People who worked on the movie and so forth. It's always nice to keep the ball rolling, with that. Plus, it'll get a lot more fans because people will see it again, and But that's kind of that hasn't even been announced yet, so. I'm probably letting the cat out of the bag.
We'll keep a lid on it.
But you know what? Yeah, it's just, I'm always trying to find new avenues to bring some money in. And, so great because every time there's a new format, there's a new avenue, to sell your film, especially if you own the rights to it. And the rights reverted back to Ken Hall a few years ago. So he owns it. So that all worked out really well. But it snowballed from there. I mean, I did a number of other pictures. Laid to Rest was a lot of fun. We shot that in Annapolis, Maryland, and we actually shot it in a place called Crownsville, and the main location was this. It was an old mental hospital, let's see. Yeah, it was like a state hospital, so they had an asylum. They had a thing that looked like a police, like a police station. They had houses. It was like a little back. And we went there, and I hired a crew. Most of our crew came from Michigan. And I forget how I hooked into that crew, but a lot of those guys came from Michigan, and because when we were in Maryland, a lot of the crews there were on another picture. It might have been a Barry Levinson movie because he shoots a lot there. And so, I had to pool from everywhere to get crew together for that particular picture. But what a great cast and crew. I had a fantastic time on that. The place was like haunted. So they were constantly taking us down into these catacombs under the, where supposedly, ex-inmates were down there, the ghosts of them and what have you, and people were freaking out. So we had a terrific time making that movie. And, what did you think of it? Did you watch it the other night, you said?
Yeah, I was enjoying a lot of the kills. There were some really, really good ones, and I appreciated all the practical effects that go into a film like that, just because it didn't take me out of it. I actually enjoyed it more. So I started okay, what's the next one going to be like? And trying to figure
there's some amazing kills in it. And, a lot of that has to be given credit to Rob Hall, the director, because he is an effects guy. So he knows how to shoot all that stuff. And I was lucky because I got to do a lot of second unit on that. I directed a lot of the second unit on that. So because I was interfacing with Rob with the kills and all, I learned. It's like a magician doing a trick when you do a kill. And I learned, this is the best place to put the camera, or, here's how you shoot this so you really sell the effect. And, it was really, really great. So, all along the way, you pick up little, tidbits of knowledge and so forth And you know, I'm just so lucky that I've been able to do that all along the way. And you know, I had worked on this picture with Armand when I first got to town here. I was just his director's assistant. I like assisted him, and not an assistant director, director's assistant. And you know, I did some it was a, you know, I kind of did it on the sly because it was a union picture, but I did some second unit on that. And I did a lot of things, produced a lot of, there were photographs in it that had to be shot of people who were murdered. So I had to like get actors and do these photos and so forth. So it's fun. You know, you get to do so many things. And I remember on that picture, and I think this is what producing is all about. So anybody who wants to be a producer should listen up, because on that picture, we started to run out of money near the end. And Armand wanted to do this graveyard sequence. And we were shooting in Lacey Street Studios here in LA, which is, you know, a bunch of buildings, you know. But across the street, there was a park. And we weren't really allowed to shoot over there. Okay. So, but I thought to myself, you know, because we had the answer, no, we don't have money to do the graveyard scene. So I thought, well, what if we put a camera low angle in the parking lot and put gravestones in front of it, and then you could see the park across the street behind it? It would look like a graveyard, right? So I had a connection to fake gravestones. That's what we did. And you would think we were in a graveyard. And I think we did an insert shot on a piece of grass somewhere of the actual grave. Yeah, but it's sold. I mean, it really, really, really did well. And, you know, the people who were producing that, I ended up working with them years later because they remembered that. They remembered that I came up with that way of, you know, finding a way. You always got to think, how can I do this? How can I make the money work the best possible way to get what we need? And another thing on that movie, I met Chang Seng on that movie, who's my producing partner on Laid to Rest. I was a co-producer on Laid to Rest, and he was one of the producers. And then he and I produced together The Wretched. So, you know, that's how you build. And I really had not many connections out here in terms of, hey, can you help me find work or anything like that? But as you work and people see what you can bring to the table, then you get offers. You know, you get offers for jobs, and that's kind of how that came about. Am I boring you guys?
No. I'm just running down in my head. I'm like, oh man, there's, you know, I'm thinking, okay, so you didn't go to producer school, so there's no like producers university. So it sounds, this is very hands-on, almost like any other, you know.
Let me tell you something. I've had people from producer school come work with me. No, it is really good when you learn in the field, because you got to think on your feet. Mm-hmm. And you really got to, you know, I mean, I've been lucky. I've always had good people around me. You know, I've been working with this young guy, Travis Coltreri, who we made a producer. I think he's a co-producer on The Wretched. And, you know, he's terrific to work with. So he's kind of been my right-hand guy on some things. We did a series together after The Wretched for FX that ran on their FXX network called Oh Jerome No. And actually, the lead actor in that, Mamadou Athie, he was just nominated for an Emmy, and he lost to Lawrence Fishburne, which,
I mean, if you're going to lose to someone,
lose
Lawrence
somebody.
Fishburne. Yeah,
you know what I mean. But
Fishburne.
Mamadou's fantastic in this TV series, and what we the cool thing about the series is it was done as short form entertainment. I'm always trying to, you know, figuring out what's the new thing, and you know, because of the internet and people liking short films, FX wanted to do this thing called Cake, and it's animation mixed with live action. And our series ran in there as 12-minute segments on that show called Cake. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of cut up. Now they have since run it together. And if you take, we had 8 segments, 12 minutes apiece. If you add them all together, it's like a little movie. And it actually works best when you can see the whole thing. And they've been showing it that way. I think you can find it on Hulu that way, where you can see it from beginning to end. because it has a really nice through line. It's a romantic comedy. It's not a horror film. So it's kind of, everybody tells me, well, you only do horror films. I get this from my mom all the time. You only do horror. I don't want to tell anybody you do horror films. So I said, well, I got a comedy. Remember the comedy? You know, she loved the comedy. And I did a couple. It's funny. I did a couple things for Lifetime that my mom was celebrating. You know, I mean, it was like Lifetime. I could tell all my friends. Yeah, I did a thing called Dark Desire, and then another thing that was really cool with a lot of musical numbers in it called Mega Church Murder. So you know, that was really, really cool. So anyway, yeah, I've been trying to. What's really nice is when you have a horror film, especially when you're marketing something, because you always got to think of that down the line. The nice thing about horror movies or monster movies, whatever you know, genre films like that, or a family film, a lot of times you don't really need a big name star to sell it. So, you know, that's a nice perk because people buy into the scares. You know, they want to be scared, they want to see effects, whatever, and the story. You know, it's not as necessary to you know, have a big name in it. I'll never forget. I had a picture called The Ghost Maker that I made that I'm really proud of. I did it very low budget, but it has lots of effects. There's over 200 visual effects in it. And I did it with a guy who's an incredible artist. His name's Mauro Borelli. And he designs sets for big movies. You know, he does concept work for big movies like Captain America and stuff like that. In fact, in Captain America, for the longest time, the place where they found the cosmic cube was called Polgardy and Sons. And they liked the name because it sounded like it would fit Eastern European, you know, kind of thing. But they cut it at the last minute. Legal probably had a fit that if somebody really existed. So, but that was kind of cool. But anyway, Mauro and I did this film, and it was just amazing how much attention it got, and it had incredible effects in it. And you know, it was about a 15th century coffin that had a music box in it, and when you would go in the coffin and the music play, you would have you would die basically, and you would become a ghost, and you could do all this stuff as a ghost, you know, leave your body and do all these things. And when you use it, it's like a drug. You get addicted to it, and the longer you stay in the coffin, it's like drugs. You know, you're killing yourself. So, you know, it's a really cool movie, and that got a lot of attention. And at one point, I remember a studio came to us, and it wasn't a studio; it was an outside producer who wanted to take studios, and they wanted us to hire Donald Sutherland to play the creator of the coffin and shoot one day with him where he's building the coffin and everything, and then cut that into the movie to put a name in. But we sold it, and we made, you know, we did well with it.
What was Donald's rate?
What was his rate?
Yeah, his day rate.
But see, the thing was, so many people liked that picture. We probably could have gotten the extra money, to hire somebody like that if they really wanted that to happen, you know. But eventually, we did. Lionsgate put that movie out. Actually, I went out through Lionsgate. You can find that online, I think, on Prime and those places.
I'm glad you mentioned that was actually prompted by the studio, because by the you know, by the backers, because that's something I've always wondered about. You always see these, you know, indie horror films where there's a slightly famous person who's there for one scene.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was the creators or the producers that was making that happen. Actually,
in Ghostmaker, how that happened was there was an outside producer who loved the movie. She had seen the movie and really, really dug it. But she was worried that we wouldn't be able to get a big deal, because she thought it could be a super big deal. And she was the one, I believe she was the one who wanted us to add in Donald Sutherland. And eventually that movie actually got turned into a 3D movie in Germany. You know, that movie played all over the world. It was in Germany as a 3D movie, And then also in Italy, they had a promotion there where a big pizza chain in Italy you would order a pizza and get Ghostmaker with your pizza to watch.
Okay.
So it was like this huge, promotion over in Italy.
So how does a movie like?
What's that?
I was gonna say. So how does a movie like that kind of catch on in another country? I mean, is that anything you guys have a hand in? When does that kind of discussion come up, after it gets to the distributor, or is that something you guys work with?
We might have had a festival screening there. We're going back a little ways. It's like 2010. I think that when we made that, I think we had a festival screening there, and we knew some people in Italy. I know a lot of people over in Italy, filmmakers and so forth. That's how Fabrizio Bondi, how I got in touch with him. In fact, I was going to do a movie over in Italy at one point. I was so excited about it, but it fell apart. I mean, so many things get percolating and go by the wayside. I mean, it's just a part of the business,
Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounds like with your career, not much went. You seem to pick up the old things that were percolating and reintroduce them in a new way.
Blessed, guys. I've been extremely blessed, and I'm an honest guy. I think. I think most people, like that, and also really care about the project. When we make a movie, I pride myself on using the money as best as you can to put it up on screen. That's the big key. Most producers come in and they're like, we got to cut this, and this. And they're not thinking about, well, wait a minute. We have a big nighttime scene where we need all these extra lights. Let's consider that. And, what I normally do is I'll go to the directors and whoever is involved, the DP. I had a great synergy on Wretched with the DP. And, we talk about, what is it going to take to like this and all. And, well, what can you lose? What can you live without to get that? One of the big things on Wretched was the lenses. They wanted to use these anamorphic lenses, which were really expensive. And I'm so glad we used them because the movie looks terrific. I mean, and let's face it, we did get lucky on Wretched with getting our drive-in, distribution, because that really, made a lot of money for us and got us out there. But you got to realize that, we had an incredible festival run before that. We had very good reviews from New York Times, LA Times, Hollywood Reporter, Variety. I mean, big places gave us good reviews. So, and the movie looks good. It looks fantastic. So yeah. Can you catch a break? Yes. But you got to have something once you get that break to carry you to the next level. And we're doing fantastic overseas because we've had festival screenings overseas. So a lot of people, there was already an awareness of the movie. And I got to say, the guys really did a good job marketing our picture. IFC Midnight handled us, and they just took that ball and they ran with it. We were originally only scheduled to be like in 10 theaters, like brick and mortar theaters. And then the pandemic hit, and we thought, oh man, there goes our theatrical. And next thing you know, I think we started with 25 drive-ins. And I mean, all said and done, we were in a total of, and some of these were brick and mortar, we were in a total of like 200 and some theaters.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah. And, we're still in a couple. We're still in a few theaters.
Is there an actual circuit of drive-in theaters that you connected with to get your movie into?
It was all different circuits. And again, IFC Midnight was terrific at doing that. They had the connections to get us in places. And, a lot of people come to me now, a lot of other filmmakers, how can I get my movie in the drive-ins like you did? Well, get IFC to pick it up. They have those connections. You know what I mean? It's tough. Having a theatrical, any kind of screening like that, it's a little easier now because things are digital, but in terms of you don't have to make physical, you don't have to make prints like the old days where it's super expensive to make a film print. Digital print now is not as expensive, but it's easier to get around and get a lot of prints out there in circulation and so forth, and that's what happened with our movie.
And that was something I wanted to touch on. There's so many film festivals now. So from a producer standpoint, is it easier to get into film festivals? Is it harder because there are so many and your film can get lost with all of them? Over your experience,
it's tough. I got close to getting in some really big ones with the Ghostmaker, and we got just edged out in a couple of the major festivals. Made it right down to like the last few picks. And that was kind of sad because I thought that movie was so good. But Wretched, one thing that was really great is the Pierce brothers, who wrote and directed the picture, and they're terrific guys. And they had done this film called Deadheads. And Deadheads had festival exposure. So they knew a lot of the festival people. So when they came back, for a second time, a lot of people knew who they were. And, they had that kind of leg up on it. But our movie, I got to go back to, the movie is good. So that's why we got in things, and we were in a great, fantastic festival called Fantasia up in Montreal. That is just a great place to premiere your movie. And that festival premiere, it just took off from there. A lot of people covered it, reviewed it, and we got a lot of attention, and it just started snowballing from there. So, yeah. I mean, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I didn't know if it was better because of all of these festivals, or if it there's so many. You see, a lot of the trailers come up with those laurels and stuff, and it's got all these film festivals. If that's, you can kind of get lost in the shuffle with hundreds of other films and hundreds of festivals, because it used to be Sundance and Cannes, and those were it. You had to get into those if you were going to get anything. But now it seems the door's a little bit more open to other films and gaining that exposure.
I lost you for a second, guys. I don't know. We had a little technical glitch. Did you see that too?
Yeah, I'll rewind.
Maybe it's my Wi-Fi. Yeah, it's tough to get in. It really is. It's not easy. It's like anything, but once they know who you are, a lot of times they take you under their wing as, hey, these are the guys we love their last movie. Let's see what their new one is. That helps a lot. But I got to say, it's still tough. I mean, It was hard. We almost got in some other major festivals with Wretched. Big ones like, not genre festivals, but, bigger, even bigger festivals, here in the States. And, but I think the path we ended up on was terrific for the movie. I mean, there's a lot of genre festivals, big ones, all over the world, stages in Spain, there's a ton of them all over the world. And we were in England, we were, Germany was a big one. So we were exposed to a lot of the fans who like this kind of material, and also the people who distribute in those countries. We were number 2 in Germany theatrically. In Vietnam, you can find this online, so I'm not telling tales out of school. In Vietnam, in our first week, I think we made over $100,000 in Vietnam, which is, there are not a ton of theaters there. But, we did really well with the movie. It's really good. And I feel really good because, for me, one of the biggest goals that I have as a producer is getting the investors their money back. I think it's really important because, a lot of investors, if they make their money back and make some profit, will finance another film for you, and not only that, who wants to make people lose money? I mean, I want, but it is very hard to make money in the movie business anymore because everyone has their hand out along the way.
Mhm.
So, you got to make like, let's see, at least 7-8 times your budget to get your money back a lot of times. And, upfront money, I always say get upfront money. Usually you can't get upfront what the cost of the movie is, unless you're making, $100,000 movies or $50,000 movies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, like I said, Halfway House was 80.
Yeah.
That was the original, budget. And you got to see that movie. It looks great. But, Ken was an effects guy. And, he had written a lot of films that got made. He wrote Nightmare Sisters. I don't know if you remember that movie. And, and among others. And, he's, he was the Puppet Master. He was the original writer for Puppet Master.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
But anyway, so it's you got to make a good movie, guys. That's the key. And anybody can say I got an idea and I want to make it, but you got to give it something that's a little bit different and speaks to the audience today. Our movie is more of a monster movie, so it has a very wide demographic. It's not a slasher film or something like really edgy that, when I say edgy, like gruesome, where you're alienating some, teens or something. I don't know. I don't know if teens would be alienated by something really gory, but anyway, ours is like almost Spielberg-esque. It has that kind of feel to it, and but with some really cool scares and a really fantastic creature created by Eric Porn and Bite-Mares. Eric worked for us on, that's his name, by the way, Eric Porn.
I may adopt that name.
And he was the guy who implemented all of Rob's effects in Laid to Rest. So all those cool kills you saw, Eric was in the shop prepping them and getting people made up and so forth. They're on set. So and he came on to The Wretched.
Real quick on Laid to Rest, can you share what the actual budget was on Laid to Rest? Or
I mean, let's just say it was under $1 million.
Okay.
The first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did that project?
It looks really good because Rob's
very sharp.
Rob's so good, and we got a lot of perks shooting in in Maryland, and it's
We'll talk about that. What kind of we hear about that all the time. States offering perks. What was Maryland offering at the time, if you can recall?
Well, we got a killer deal on the Crownsville place, and which had like 90% of our locations in it.
Yeah,
we went outside to film a convenience store. We shot in a convenience store, and actually our last day in that store, I think we stuck to pretty good hourly days, like 12 to 13, 14 hours on that show. And then the last day, though, went like 20 some hours. It was brutal. Brutal. But we needed to get everything. Yeah. It was like the sun was coming up. At the we shot all night. And we had mishaps there. In that location, there was a flood. It rained and it flooded all our tents that we had up there. We were staying in tents. Our production area was tented. And all the water went in there and it covered our heaters. We had space heaters because it was cold at that time of year that we shot it. And I got this call early in the morning, and it was the first guy that went to set. And he was like, "Ed, you got to get down here. All our heaters are underwater." And I was like, "Oh my God." These are the things you deal with and you got to roll with something, one way or another. Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. There are so many things that you don't realize went on in a movie. Like in The Wretched, let me just tell you, first of all, when we went to Michigan first, I went with the Pierce brothers and Connor Murphy, our DP, and we stayed in Drew Pierce's in-laws house. And I was working on the schedule and figuring out how we were going to do things, and they were storyboarding. And let me tell you something, they boarded that entire picture. And on an effects picture, that's really important. They knew exactly what they wanted to get, and yet they weren't limited, because once they got there, if it didn't work, they would come up with something. But they had a plan going in, and that's so important when you're making a movie, is to have some kind of plan. You know, how do we see this? What are we going to do? You know, but you know, there's a scene in The Wretched that I was so proud of this when it happened. It was kind of a crazy day. We were shooting, and we actually shot. If you're familiar with the movie, there's a dead deer in it. You know, it's a fake one, just in case they're animal lovers out there. But it's a dead deer, and we showed that deer getting hit. We filmed a whole sequence, and I'll never forget. I just love this because, you know, you have to figure out how to do something, whatever it takes. They were shooting the hit, and what they were doing was the deer was going to get hit and then roll up the window and over the truck. So what they wanted to do is do it the opposite way and then reverse the film. So it would come off the top, boom, down, and, you know, and at about take 28, and I was sitting there watching this, and I said, all right, guys, come on, hold on. Take that deer off those ropes. And I jumped up on the truck bed, and I said, Connor, where do you want this to hit? And he showed me on the truck. And I tossed the deer down, and it was perfect. You know, and I was like so excited. And then the scene never got in the movie. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, you got to find ways around, or else you get caught in a mire. You know, you don't want to lose something just because it doesn't work, or, you know, accidents happen all the time. Good ones sometimes. Like we were shooting in The Wretched. We were at a marina, and we had this scene going on in the marina. And right while it was going on, just by, you know, luck, a huge, beautiful yacht goes by outside the window. And I mean, I couldn't have afforded on that movie to, you know, find a yacht that size to go by. You know what I mean? It would have been really hard, you know, but lucky accident. You know what I mean? It just, it worked out for us. But, and then one night too, when we were shooting a lot of the footage out in the woods, lightning storm came up, and you know, we had all our equipment there, and I got to tell you, I have never seen a lightning storm like this lightning storm. It was terrifying. I mean, we had to shut down. I said that, you know, all of us agreed this is not safe, you know, so we shut down, and we went into our we had a base camp that was in a home, you know, outside. We had tents down where we were shooting, but we also had a home that we were staging some stuff out of. So we all jammed into that home and watched the lightning for like hours. And then it finally calmed down, and we went back out and shot. And we were lucky. We got everything we needed there. But it was tough. You know, it was a touch and go thing. So, yeah, it's amazing. You know, you got to roll. You got to be quick on your feet to figure out, okay, here's what we're going to do. Or let's shoot this. We can do close-ups in the garage here at our house. I mean, we didn't do that on on Wretched, but you can. You know, you can figure out something else to do, so you're not just wasting time sitting around. You know, that's the key to being a good producer, good director, good, you know, team. You know, I've been blessed. I've had really good crews, and we shot pickups in LA for Wretched, and that ended up being most of my main crew that I use in LA when I'm here, and that went terrific. We recreated half of the sequence, the final sequence with the wretch that takes place in a cave, you know, under a tree. Half of that was shot in LA, and then we had other sequences that needed pickup shots, you know, to match and everything. And, you know, we would do things like match the roof and put a piece of the roof in the shot that looks like the roof from Michigan, and shoot over it like we're looking from the top of the roof, and then out in the wood, like a area that looks like the trees and what it looked like around the houses, and nobody ever says, "Oh my God, that was in two different places." It's amazing what you can get away with.
You had brought it up and it made me think about it. Has streaming services, Prime, Hulu, Netflix, has it changed the way you do your job as a producer? Because I'm assuming that has to factor into when you're making the movie, the end result.
Yeah, a lot of times, whoever you sell the movie to for distribution handles the streaming. They'll have deals for the streaming. Like U.S. distributors, a lot of times will also handle the streaming stuff. But we were rep by for the Wretched, we were rep by CAA, and they did a lot of hooked us up with a lot of things. I mean, honestly, a lot of that stuff at the end of the day was with the Pierce brothers because they own this movie. So, they did a lot of that. So I can't really speak to that as much as on other films I've done. On other films, streaming was part of the package on a lot of my other films. We've been really lucky on The Wretched because, we had runs and then they upped the runs. Obviously, there was a lot of traffic to watch the movie because they they give you more money, down the line if to keep it going because they do it for a specific amount of time.
Yeah,
and it's hard to trace how many people download your movie or watch it that way. It's very hard to trace.
Yeah, they don't share that information like you think they would. The box office numbers.
Well, one of the big reasons is they know you'll get mad if you know that you've had 80 million, watches and you got X amount of dollars one-time fee. You know what I mean? But it's a really, I really think that we have to re-examine how we make indie movies because so many people make them, and if they get their money back, they're really lucky. But to continue to do that, you don't want to grind through every kid who just came in on the bus in LA and their parents gave them the money to make their movie, or their rich uncle, and then you spit the movie out and then they never get another opportunity. It's just like a machine, like in the old days, if you made a really good movie and it had a great theatrical, you became John Carpenter, you became somebody big, Toby Hooper, all these guys that made films like that. Armand Mastriani, my good friend, he made He Knows You're Alone, which was the very first film Tom Hanks did.
Oh yeah.
In fact, Armand got Tom his SAG card.
Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah, and Tom will, if he sees Armand out at a restaurant, he'll stop the whole restaurant and say, "This is the guy who got me in SAG." He's very, what a sweet guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how, and this kind of going to the opposite end of the spectrum, how has fundraising changed from when you started? Now we have crowdfunding, Indiegogo, all of this stuff. Has it made it easier that I can log onto your Indiegogo and plop down my 50 or $100 to help produce the movie? Has it made it easier, or has it presented more challenges?
It's not easy. It's not easy. And, if you're talking about doing, not just some $50,000 movie or $40,000 movie, it's harder. Look, I had a crowdfunding thing going on a project with Stuart Gordon. You know who Stuart is?
Yep.
He did Reanimator. And he has a huge cult following. And Jeffrey Combs was involved in the project. And they did a crowdfund and couldn't raise the money. And they have tons of fans. I mean, you would have thought that would have gone. I think they were looking for 400,000, which,
Do you think there's a stigma?
I got to tell you that, and these are the sob stories from my life. That script was one of the best scripts I've ever had. It was about Edgar Allan Poe, and they did a stage play that Jeffrey Combs played Poe in. That was pretty popular, and they were going to turn that into a movie. And Dennis Paoli wrote the script, and it was a fantastic script. In fact, I wanted to shoot it back in Pennsylvania because Poe had lived in Pennsylvania, and there were a lot of places that we could get that really would look like that time period, you know. And my cousin Paul is a Civil War reenactor, and some of the costumes from that era they're a little bit off, but with some enhancements and all. If you could, you know, I was thinking, how could we do this and make it authentic and so forth. And I was trying to, you know, bring that together, but it never worked out. And that was a major disappointment. I was actually producing that with Darren Scott, who's a really good friend of mine. In fact, you're going to interview Rusty Pendiff. When is it? Next week or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. From the Rusty and Darren did. They did this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there's 2 sequels now.
Yep. Third one just came out yesterday.
So, yeah. And those guys are really good buddies of mine. Rusty's from Pittsburgh, I believe.
Yep. So, another PA guy.
Yeah. I got to tell you, George was such a sweet guy. And if you ever wanted to get inspired or, you know, talk about, you know, I got this project and I'm trying to, you know, he would talk to you. He would give you his time, even if he wasn't feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he was a super great guy. And, you know, all of those guys from Pittsburgh, I love them to death. I idolized them as a kid, you know, and, you know, like I said, I mean, I got to pinch myself all the time because, you know, I'm doing what I was dreaming about as a kid in 7th grade. I mean, you know, it's amazing. It took me a while to get there.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when I was just going to say, when someone like George just takes the time to listen, it's kind of inspiring because someone that you admire is just listening to you. He's not giving you money. He doesn't have to give you advice. You just kind of want to get that little bit of feedback. And sometimes that's a little bit of a push that you need to actually go, you know, make Absolutely. The movie. I was at a screening and George was doing a Q&A beforehand. I remember this vividly. We were in New Hampshire and the kid stands up and he's like, "Hi, I'm George. I'm so-and-so. And, you know, I want to go make my first movie." He goes, "You know, how do I get this out there? You know, how do I do that?" And George, his simple answer, he goes, "Make the fucking movie. Just go make the movie." He goes, don't listen to what anybody says. Just go make your movie. And it was a simple answer. And I don't think the kid was expecting it. And I wasn't either, but it's just something that stuck with me is just go and do it. If you have the means,
get caught up in, I got to have this much money. I got to do that. There's always a way that you can find to make it. It may not be exactly what you originally intended, but sometimes it forces you to be way more creative. When you have to scrimp and, you know, find a way to do something cheaper, a lot of times you get creative on how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, yeah, I agree with that, you know, 100%.
I always felt you did not need to have the biggest budget, the best equipment. You just needed to have the desire to go make the movie. And it shows in almost all of George's films. Like he didn't have, you know, these huge multi-million-dollar budgets. He went out and just made his movie, and you can tell there's heart in it. When you find a filmmaker and a crew that wants to do something well, they do something well. The rest just falls into place because they work together.
Yeah, it's really sad what happened on the original Night of the Living Dead, because that's a seminal horror movie. And what's great about it, and I always love in projects I'm developing as a director, is when it has some kind of a social context. And George had that in spades in a lot of his movies, almost everything, I think. And I love that, you know. And anyway, you know, on that first film, they didn't put a copyright notice on the actual movie. And a lot of people pirated that film and, you know, put out releases that, you know, was like it was in the public domain. So they didn't, you know, I mean, all of these lessons, you know, I would say to filmmakers too, read about what past filmmakers have done, because you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot from their mistakes. And most filmmakers are willing to talk about those mistakes because they really want other filmmakers to not have to suffer through that.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens. There are so many pitfalls you can go through. I mean, one big one. Let me tell you one. When you're selling your movie, and you're and you got a distributor on the line. I mean, this is just a simple thing. Always make sure they put a cap on what they're going to charge you for their new trailer and their new poster. Because I had a great poster on Ghostmaker. Mauro Borelli, one of the top guys in the industry, he designed his own poster, and it was terrific. And then Lionsgate did their own poster. Now we put a cap on that. We had a good producers rep who made sure that was done properly. But if you don't put a cap on, they can charge you any amount of money they want. I mean, it gets ridiculous what they can charge you for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our thing for the Wretched, our trailer we did. My friend Garrow did our trailer, our first cut of the trailer with the Pierce brothers, and they took that and expanded it, but they used a lot of what we had in our original trailer, and that happens a lot. I mean, it's good when it happens, because usually, especially if you're really good like the Pierce brothers are, your trailer already probably is pretty good. And Garrow is phenomenal. He's a director too.
Is there one producer or someone in the business that you did that to? You went back and looked and really kind of picked their brain and sat down and gained more of that knowledge, or did you just kind of cherry pick from different people along the way?
Well, I learned as we went. I mean, I've been down that road many times. You know what I mean? I've sold my pictures. I didn't have as much to do with that on the Wretched. I had some, we would all talk about different things that were on the table and so forth. But, that's a hard part, because, you're wearing multiple hats. Like I said, especially as a producer, you're a salesman, you're a movie maker, you're like I said, I do a lot of things. I don't just go and do a budget and schedule.
You throw deers.
I jumped in as first AD. But let me tell you this. On the Wretched, there was a scene where we had our lead on a bicycle, and he was on a road, and we found this kind of old road, country road. And I knew the police commissioner there, the head of the police. And I said, hey, we're doing this. Can you give us some cops to close each end of the road off and so forth? He said, nobody goes on that road. He said, save yourself some money. Put 2 guys on either end. And, our first AD, he he's a real by the book guy. He refused to do it. He didn't want to do it, and I said, but why? We asked the police. They're saying, about it. So he said, no, I just can't do it. I don't want to. And I said, look, just let me go out and I'll get this shot. And I AD'd it.
Famous last words. The police said it was okay.
Yeah.
Well, we would never do anything that was dangerous. And let me tell you something. Where we were shooting, you could see like half a mile of road. There's no way you wouldn't notice a car coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was so foolproof, and I wouldn't have taken the chance if I didn't have him right there. Another thing, we built. We had to burn some stuff in our set. We had some fire effects, and just we didn't think about this when we got it, because we got a building. I think it was an old auto shop, and we built our set in there. And right next door, just by accident, was the fire station. Right? So I said to the fire marshal, I said, are we going to need anything for water truck, all that stuff? He said, we're right here. Just, I was right next door. So it was like, and what was really cool is he also operated the ambulance in that town. It was called Northport, Michigan. And I said, hey, we need an ambulance. And he was so excited to help us. He just drove the ambulance out to us and let us use it for free. So that's what you get. Those are the kind of perks you get.
Yeah.
Laid to rest, we had police officers in it. They didn't charge. I think they took pictures with Bobby Sue Luther, who was our star, because she was like a local. She grew up in that town. So that's how we found out about it. Yeah, Crownsville and all. And, they just wanted a picture with her. So, I mean, it's amazing the kind of perks you can get. That's what I wanted to shoot in Easton. Dan's shooting a film there right now. Dan Roebuck. He's shooting. This is his second film he's shooting in Easton. Right now, he's shooting one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, when someone from your town comes back to shoot a movie, and people aren't used to movies being shot there a lot, they roll out the red carpet. I mean, you get a lot of perks, and it's fun. I mean, it's so much fun when you shoot on location too, because it's like the circus coming to town. I mean, everybody treats you a certain way. I mean, it was like, oh my God, where are you guys shooting tonight? It's like, it's amazing. I actually made a ton of connections. You're going to laugh at this, in the gym in Northport. The Pierce brothers, I think both of them, and I used to go to this gym while we were prepping. And there was an older guy in the gym, and somehow he found out what we were doing, and he owned the building. So we needed a place to base camp while we shot at this marina right near the gym. And I said, hey, can we use your place to shoot? I was making all these connections at the gym. This is funny. Can I spot you? Yeah. Hey, can we use your I'm spotting on the bench. The Pierce brothers got such a kick out of that, that we were getting deals there. But no, I mean, that's another thing. You got to be really, I always find that you can find the best deals looking in places you wouldn't expect. You know what I mean? I did get, I did get people from the local college and all that kind of stuff. Interlochen supplied us with a couple people, and I did a Zoom meeting for them not too long ago about the experience of shooting there, which was really nice. It's always nice to give back to kids and all that. And, a lot of these kids go on to be big time guys, and then you go begging them, hey, now that you're working with Spielberg,
yeah,
you help. No, I'm serious. I mean, you never know whether all of my assistants that I've had through the years have done really cool stuff. One guy that worked with me in New York who was my assistant, he's like the main guy with the guy that does the Tonight Show out here now. Not the Tonight Show, I can't remember his name now. Anyway, he's his right-hand man. He's always asking me to go on the show.
Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Okay.
Kimmel. Yeah, he's always asking me, hey, you want to come out on a show? And
you ought to. Let us know if
I've done that. I've taken friends, like if they come to town to visit and stuff. I had people on Jay Leno a couple times, and he would put me right up front so that, the friend would have a great seat, like where he shakes everybody's hand and everything, when he was doing the show. One thing cool about Jay is Dan Roebuck played him in a movie. And, we had that to talk about.
Oh, in the Late Night Wars movie, right? Was it the Late Night Wars?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was the Letterman-Leno battle.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. That was a made-for-HBO movie, I want to say.
Yeah.
I had a question about The Wretched. Right now, you can see it on Hulu, and Amazon Prime is where I saw it. It's also out on Blu-ray. Where are you at with The Wretched? Are you still promoting it somewhere, or are you is it in your rear view?
No, I mean, we've promoted the heck out of it. We can, there's a link that IFC Midnight has that shows you every place you can get it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the wretchedmovie.com, I believe.
Okay.
Try that and see.
Okay.
I just want to take a minute. Ed, I think your mom has been watching. I see someone said, so proud of my son. You deserve to be blessed. So I just want to say your mom was watching, and
wow, and we're talking about horror movies.
And we're talking. Well, she probably perked up when you were talking about the Lifetime movies. So she, he took her a bone there and talked about the Lifetime movies. My mom does the same thing. She's, what are you doing? I'm like, horror movie. And then I'll somehow someone I know was in a Lifetime movie or making one, and she goes, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Yeah, you probably saw that one because I know you watch the channel all the time." So our moms and their Lifetime channels.
Wow. It's I mean, the nice thing about the Lifetime stuff is my mom's friends thought that was important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like horror movie. Oh my God, I would never watch your son's movie, but she doesn't realize the fandom that is out there for these kinds of movies. I mean, you guys know. I mean, tell her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, horror fans will watch anything. We'll watch a Lifetime movie because someone was in a horror movie that we liked, and we're gonna, hey, they're in a Lifetime movie. Sure, I'm gonna watch that. And hey, I've done that. I'm like, hey, I see so and so is gonna be on Lifetime tonight. My wife just kind of looks at me and like, yeah, we're gonna watch Lifetime tonight.
The nice thing about my Lifetime movies, the first one I did, Dark Desire, I did with Armand Mastroianni, and that movie was the #1 movie on LMN for the year. So that was
nice. Nice.
But I tend to like features, like I made, like The Wretched. I got to tell you, we had, and I know I said this a million times before, but when things are right with the world and you get a crew you love and you get a script you love and you get directors you love and you get all those things, it's like nothing else in the world. It's just like, it's what every kid dreams of when they think of, I'm making a movie. You know what I mean? When the reality in most cases is, oh my God, what happened? You know what I mean? Yeah. What do I got to do? Who do I got to pull out of jail? Believe me, I had to do that a few times.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of throwing your hat in the directing ring?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's been my goal since I moved to LA. And I have a number of things in development right now. It's unfortunate because right now with the coronavirus, it's been really hard to get things going. I have a TV series that I'm working on. I've got some features, and with all the success of The Wretched, that's helped things.
Mm-hmm.
And but right now, it's just a lot of people are talking about it, but not many are making it. It adds 25% to your budget to go with the coronavirus rules. You have to, and safety is paramount. And but it's about 25% it tax onto your budget. Now, for a big studio, that's not that big a deal. But for an indie, somebody who wants to make an independent movie, that really is a lot of money. So, and you got to consider it. The time it takes to screen everybody, to test them, put them in quarantine until we know they're all safe, and then to shoot the film. And it's slower. Everybody's got to do things with a mask on, then they take them off for the scene. And it's just, we're kind of getting our feet wet. It's a whole new ball game with that.
Yeah. How do you think what we're going through now is going to change indie films, genre films, in the future?
Well, I'm worried, I like theatrical movies, and I'm just worried that it's going to be tough for these theater chains to come back. I think I just read Regal is closing. Regal Theater.
Yeah, Regal, and that means AMC might not be far behind, and those are the two biggest theater chains we've had, and we were talking earlier, even before I think we came on here, but the drive-in places like the Mahoning in Lehighton, and you're seeing all of these drive-ins kind of having a resurgence. So
it's terrific. We had our premiere at the drive-in.
Yeah.
And what was cool is one of the things we did, we made up a mask of the Wretch, our creature, with the teeth and everything, for our premiere.
Oh, so, nice.
All of us had these Wretch masks. And, I noticed that there were a few things about those masks that got out, publicity-wise. And I noticed that other people picked up on it. Like I know they did a screening of an old movie called Dracula versus Frankenstein, and they had the mask. lot of people, because it's a cool promotional gimmick. It's so drive-in. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's terrific. I wish the drive-in would stay back. I mean, especially with what we just went through with Corona. You know, it's like a great place to do that sort of thing. I went to the drive-in here in LA not too long ago where they had comedians and then they did a movie. Live comedians, and you watch from your car, and then they did a movie afterwards.
Yeah, I did one of the concerts at the drive-in earlier in the spring. So I mean, man, I'm really hoping drive-ins come back and they stick around if the theaters do come back, because the drive-in experience was something I had been missing out of my life for like 30 years. And I was going back, and it turns into a big party. You go to the drive-in and you're hanging out with friends. You just don't go in and sit down and then, okay, hey, thanks for coming to the movie. You're hanging out, you know, and a lot of these places make events out of them.
Totally. And we were talking about promoting. They're doing a convention there, a horror movie convention.
Yeah.
Over Halloween weekend. Right?
Yeah, I'm excited for that. That's going to be fun. It's, you know, Eric and I are convention goers, and that's been a big part of our life that's been missing this year. And it's, you know, we got something, you know, it's not a full blown convention, but all of our, friends are going to be there. We're going to watch some movies. It's over Halloween. It's just going to be like that whole atmosphere. And that's what I think drive-ins have over a 12 screen theaters is the atmosphere. You don't go and hang out in the theater of a lobby, the lobby of a theater, but you go to the drive-in, you can literally just tailgate and have a good time. And
it's like a big party.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. It's, I did an event, last month, they had Bruce Campbell there, and it was 2 nights of Bruce Campbell triple features and Q&As and meet and greets and everything. It was a great weekend.
Did you know the Pierce brothers' father did the meltdown sequence in Evil Dead?
No.
Yeah, he's one of the Evil Dead guys.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we had royalty. He worked on our movie. He helped us out. And he horror movie royalty.
Nice.
So yeah, it's really cool. The stories about them sneaking down. They always tell this story where when they were little kids, they used to creep down in the basement to look and get scared and then, run back upstairs, I guess. Yeah, we, having a love for the genre rather than just making a movie to take advantage of the fact that horror movies sell, having a love for what you're doing really, I think, makes the movie rise above. Because, you want to make a good movie. You're not just trying to, do a trend, ride on the coattails of some trend. You're trying to do something special. And I had, like I said, I had a great time on The Wretched. The Wretched was a really great experience. And believe me, I've had some little things that where or it can get out of hand. I had a method actor one time on one of my movies hold a guy at gunpoint with a blank pistol because he asked him a question when he was in character.
Okie doke. Wasn't Christian Bale, was it?
No. I had to talk with the guy, and he understood afterwards. You gotta keep 10% of your brain, in reality. You have to, I had another guy who did a scene in this picture I was working on where I was shooting second unit, and he punched a hole in the wall. He flipped out, he was supposed to have this, get crazy in the scene, but he punched his hand through the wall. And what he didn't realize is we had another scene that was supposed to be before that scene that we had to shoot. We hadn't shot it yet. So there was a hole in the wall. So I had to patch the wall and match it so that, they could, do the scene that's supposed to come before the scene where the wall gets punched.
Yet one more hat that you wear.
Oh, it's insane. I got a guy that I work with. He's done most of my movies. His name is Mike Gaglio. He's an actor, but he's like a jack of all trades. I think every indie guy, producer, filmmaker has one of these guys. Mike Gaglio has saved my butt so many times it's just insane. I mean, I never forget in Laid to Rest, we had to move a trailer really quick. We were going from one location in Crownsville to another really quick. And the thing broke, the handle, where you pull up the wheel, where you can then tow the trailer. And I was there. I think I was cranking it, and it broke. I was like, oh, my God, and we couldn't figure out how are we going to do this, blah, blah, blah. Everybody, 20 people were trying to do it. I called Mike up. I said, Mike, he said, I'll be right down. He comes down. He says, oh, you broke the cotter pin that keeps the handle going, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I swear, I don't know if he took a paper clip or he took I don't know, carved something. And the next thing you know, in 2 seconds, it was fixed. I mean, he has saved my butt so many times. He's such a great guy to have around. He worked on Laid. He would build stuff, when we needed it right away and stuff like that. So it's, it's something. It's really thinking on your feet. You got to be really fast when you're under the gun. So,
hey, Ed, before I forget, there was a viewer question earlier asking, was there any plans for a sequel to Wretched?
I'm sure that's not out of the question. I think if the Pierce brothers make another movie, they want to do it so that it's even better than the first one. So they would have to have a budget that reflects that. So, they don't want to go back. A lot of times when you get offers to do a sequel, it's less money. You know what I mean? So they don't really want to do that. But, and I think I don't want to speak for them, but I believe they want to do something else first so they can show something else that they can do before they did a sequel. But, I mean, I'm sure if an offer came up, they would absolutely consider it, And I think there are people, because the movie did so well, you can imagine, I'm sure there are people thinking about a sequel.
Yeah, you just got to do it right.
You got to do it right. You got to do it right. And I believe they will do it right. They have some really great ideas about a sequel. They're very, very creative guys. And like I said, they plan well too, which is good. But I mean, of course they'll do one if the right deal comes together. I'm sure they will.
Yeah. No, I'd be up for it.
Oh yeah. There's definitely room for it.
Yeah, they got other good ideas too, though. They're not a one-trick pony. You know what I mean? They've got some cool other ideas they're developing. So, again, with hopefully with this Corona will blow through soon. I don't mean disappear. I mean we find some kind of way to fix it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I today it's just every major film that I was looking forward to next year is now 2022, and it's
James Bond. That's what killed Regal. They were counting on James Bond to be a tentpole for their chain. Yeah, that was I mean, Wretched was #1 in the U.S. for 5 weeks straight from our drive-in sales.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of other movies out there, but we were competing against some movies that were way bigger budgets than ours. And, so, yeah, I mean,
well, I'm honestly
nice to be in the right place at the right time, but you also got to be prepared to have a good product to give it legs,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and Matt, you had mentioned earlier you were talking about George Romero and gathering, and really just gathering all the right people together and just getting something out there and not just bitching about why you can't. But it also, that just goes to show with that, with what you said there, that you also need to have talent, and the people behind the Wretched did have talent. That's why it was successful. So just simply getting something out there, that's just the beginning. You actually need to have some backup once you get there. And
absolutely. And honestly, I don't do everything that's offered to me. I really don't. I read scripts, and I unlike a lot of my friends who will take anything because it's a job, I'm picky what I do. And I have a few films that I've done that I think are nice movies that I'm proud of, really proud of, so, I really, and I think, if you want to stay in the biz and get a reputation as someone who knows what they're doing, you don't want to take any old thing that,
Agreed.
Yeah.
But I understand if people need to make money, that's one thing. But, I consider myself, I hate to say this because it can also cut me out of jobs, but I'm more of a creative producer. I mean, even though I don't step on toes or anything like that, I do have multiple skills. I'm not just a numbers guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's definitely going to move into that next realm. I have too many things I want to do that I want to get made. So
yeah,
that will be happening, guys. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
If I put my mind to something, I always get it done. And
and you need that mindset.
You have to.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be. You got to be positive at some level. You got to be positive and realistic. You have to. And it's hard. I've seen a lot of people who are just negative all the time. They don't get the results. And I was like, you're the common denominator. You have to go out and say, this is what I want to do. This is what I have. And your resources are always going to be finite. You're only going to have so many dollars, so many days, and so much equipment. You just go do it, then you finish it. And then you look back and you learn, okay, I could have done that. I could have done this. And then you apply that to the next one. You got to incrementally get better. You don't start out with a blockbuster. You have to trip and fall and stumble along the way. And a lot of people are so afraid to do that. They just don't go make anything because it's not going to be what it looks like in their head. And they know that, and they can't live with that.
And the other thing is you got to be open to, and the Pierce brothers are real good at this. You got to be open to hearing the people around you that you hire to do certain jobs on your picture and trusting that they're bringing a vision to the table and listening to what they're saying and recommending. But at the end of the day, you also got to go with your gut instinct because, there has to be one guy who says yay or nay. There can't be a million. It can't. Movie by committee a lot of times it's the recipe for disaster.
Yeah, movie set's not a democracy. More or less, right. You have to, the director's got to be the point person, or the producer's got to say, look, you can't do this. You've got to do it some other way. So someone has to take charge. And if you make a movie by committee, you're not going to make your movie.
No. And I got to tell you too, you got to be careful. I lost a job, a really good job with a big director because I said I was a creative producer. All I meant was I was creative with the numbers to make everything go on screen. And I thought I explained that. As soon as he heard the word creative, he wanted, he didn't want anybody telling him how to make his movie, which I would have never done. There's ways to do that, to make suggestions without it being intrusive, if you know how to do that. And most people will listen to you if they know you're on the ball. They'll listen and weigh it and then decide whether they want to do it or not. You can't be badgering somebody like you're directing the movie. You can't. I know that going into a picture. If I'm a producer on it, I'm the producer. If they ask me to shoot second unit, then it gets a little more creative and so forth. Yeah. But, and I'm not, again, I will say, hey guys, did you think about doing it this way? Because from a money perspective, we can get this done faster, safer, and blah, blah, blah. That I'll say, because that's part of my realm.
And then it's up to them if they're going to follow your suggestion and apply it, or, hey, okay, well, you said this way, I wanted to do this way. Okay, how about this way? I found a way to do a mixture of it. Because you can't always have yes men, and you can't have people stopping you at every turn. But that having someone that you can trust to bounce ideas and be honest is, I think, a good way to get a good picture out there.
That's a hard thing to find, is someone honest and will tell you if they don't like something too. Because most people out here are terrified to upset the apple cart. I have never been that. Never will be that. It's like, they're terrified to make a statement because a lot of times you get fired if they don't like it,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But in an indie world, it's a little different, and I'm not afraid to offer a suggestion. And usually when I do, that suggestion has been thought out and is not just some frivolous
Mm-hmm.
idea. You know what I mean? So, you got to be open to it, but also be confident in that what's best for. Look, a movie lives or dies by, the guy that's running the show, that's running the creative stuff. It does. It lives or dies by that. And, I would hate to take 8 million people's advice and then the movie fails and I know that I should have followed my heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's tough. It's a precarious, line you walk,
Yeah.
So, anyway, I really, I love what I do. So, like I said, how many people get to do what they dreamed about? I wanted to do this since seventh grade in high school. And, when I went and did the Skins rewrites, when I was in my 20s in LA, people were coming by. We sublet an apartment of a pretty famous actor, and people like Stallone were stopping by and the apartment. They didn't know he was away. And, I was in seventh heaven. And then, one night, Tom Savini called looking for the director, Armand Mastriani. He wasn't around. And, I was about to get off the phone with him. And he says, Ed, you have your TV on? I said, yeah. He says, do I hear The Mummy playing on the TV? And I did. I had The Mummy on. It was on like Fright Night Theater, some TV horror show. And he goes, oh my God, The Mummy. He goes, oh my God. And he stayed on the phone with me, I think, for the rest of the movie. We talked about The Mummy. It's just, it's just funny. And anybody who loves these movies, genre movies like this and all, will understand what that means to someone when it happens to them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Any other questions or anything that you guys?
I was just going to say, as we wrap up here, you've given a lot of great advice to anyone that's looking to get into the world of independent filmmaking. Being there is half the battle, it kind of seems like. Is there any kind of parting parting advice that you'd like to offer that maybe we didn't cover?
Well, I think if you have a dream, whatever your dream may be, doesn't even have to be movies, and you put your mind to it and you focus on it and you say, I am a filmmaker, or I am, I don't want to say brain surgeon because you do need schooling. But, I want to be this. And part of I wanna is learning what you have to learn, whether that be school or in the field, doing the steps to know how to do it. And you have, you cannot give up. You have to be relentless. It's, and it's unfortunate. Sometimes it doesn't work,
Yeah.
And, but everybody I know that makes it in this business does it because they are determined. They're really determined to do it. And, the people I've worked with and stuff like that, if I never would have thought in seventh grade that I'd be doing some of the things I'm doing. It's
you didn't quit. You didn't quit. You were willing to learn. You were willing to fail. You were willing to try. That's just, you need to do that to get to your dreams, to get to your destination. You have to go through it all. It's not going to come easy. And if you really want to do it, you're going to stick with it through the good times and the bad.
You'll find a way. It's like you were saying, when just do it. That is a good philosophy. Just go for it. Because I know a lot of people who don't have extreme talent who have made it because they have that philosophy.
Right.
They will not take no for an answer, and they get stuff done eventually. Eventually, you find someone to invest in your dream, and that's what the secret is, And And there are guys that are super talented who don't have that drive, who end up running back home with their tail between their legs. And they're incredibly talented.
Yeah.
You know? So
you gotta work. You can't be afraid to work.
No substitute for it.
No. And you know, George is proof in that pudding, man. He was a dynamo indie.
Yep.
You know, didn't like working in Hollywood and made his own way. And, you know, I mean, you got to look up to that. He's one of my heroes, one of the big ones.
Yep.
You know, so to be on this show means a lot to me, and I really appreciate that you guys invited me out to talk to people. And you know, I help a lot of guys that come from PA. So I mean, I shouldn't have said that. Hold on, the mailman.
Yeah, check your email after the show.
Yeah. No, it's always nice to have another PA guy make it in the business.
Yeah.
There you go.
Agree.
You know.
I agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean we're super stoked to have you on as our first guest. I mean, I know Jeff was really excited to get us in touch, and you know, I've been looking forward to it again. I went out and bought The Wretched. I watched Laid to Rest. I'm gonna catch your other stuff as well, because I love to support indie filmmaking. I love to support people I know, and when they have a passion, I want to go support them in any way that I can, whether it's renting the movie, buying the movie, you know, and shouting from the rooftops, hey, go watch this. Bet you haven't heard of it. Go watch it. You know, people are always looking to, you know, discover new things, and it's not always a new thing. It's like, oh, I didn't know that this movie came out 15 years ago. How'd I miss it? I love it. And that's one of my favorite things to do, is to share other people's work and see if other people love it, and you know, talk about it. What'd you like about it? What didn't you like? And then it leads to, hey, well, then watch this one.
I was in, you know, it really doesn't hit home until you start getting some feedback on it. But I was in a meeting with a pretty big time guy recently, a director, writer, did big movies. And he didn't know me, but I was introduced to him from a mutual friend. And we were talking about a project, and he knew The Wretched. He knew all about it. Asked me about the drive-ins, asked me, you know, I mean,
nice.
It's amazing when you hit with something, all of a sudden people know your work. I mean, I made a lot of movies before The Wretched, but never had the kind of recognition that you get when you have a movie that really gets out there, and it's all over the world. That's what's really cool about it, you know? So you can do it, guys. Whoever's sitting at home wanting to do this, you can do it. Believe me, I'm proof of that.
Nice. And that's and that's why, you know, Eric and I, when we first started doing this, we love to talk about the minutia and the, you know, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, as to, you know, how did the movies we love get made? What went into it? It just didn't, you know, make itself. And I like the technical stuff, you know, from the producing to the directing to the key grips, you know, how does it all fit together? And everyone always has great stories. And I love hearing the stories from people in the different positions from, you know, a film set. So I've been looking forward to hearing your insight and your expertise now for a couple of weeks.
Well, that's the nice thing about George and his team, is they all knew how to do most of the jobs. You know, they could jump in anyway. And kind of that's the way I grew up in this industry, is, oh, you need a cable laid? I know how to wrap cable. I know how to put a light up. I know how to do all that stuff, you know? So when I go to a Gripper Electric and I say, hey, why did you do that? I'm coming from a place where I know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. You know what I mean? I'm not just making it up. You know, it's like you should really learn as much as you can as a producer. And, you know, I think that will help me as a director, because I know also the pitfalls of money and how to do things to get the most out of your buck. You know, I've done a lot of effects movies now too, so I have that kind of, you know, I know the right people to pick, the right way to do that. So,
sharing knowledge and experience is important, because it makes everybody better.
Absolutely.
You know, you got to lift everybody up.
Yeah. So, yeah, we would actually do on The Wretched, we would do moves. Like I'd work like say we were on a night shoot, I'd get up early in the day, work on prepping everything, making phone calls for the next couple days of shooting, blah, blah, blah. Then I would drive people to set so we could save on a driver. And then I would be on set doing all that stuff, go home, get a couple hours sleep, and then wake up and do it again. So, you really do have to, you can't be afraid of losing a little sleep over it either. But, it's tough. It's not an easy job. Everybody thinks, ooh, it's so glamorous. Well, the actual movie making process is hard.
Yeah.
It's not, and it's hard whether it's indie or big. Big, they throw money at it, but it's still hard. They they're on top of you all the time to be faster, more efficient, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So
Great.
What else, guys? Anything? What do you guys have coming up?
We got a lot coming up.
We've got a busy October here at the Garf Network, but no, we want to thank you for coming on board and talking with us about your career. And The Wretched was an amazing film. You should be proud of it.
Yes.
And
Very proud.
And if you're watching this and you haven't seen it, check the link in the video here, and it's available just about on any streaming avenue you can find. Yep. As well as Blu-ray.
I'm glad you put that up, because that is the link. That'll take you to every place you can get it. Streaming, theaters, whatever you want. You can find out at that link.
Yeah, I kicked it old school and bought the Blu-ray. I like physical media.
Me too. I've got 5,000 movies. You can't see them right now, but they're in front of me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm a cinephile.
Yeah, I can't go too many places and not end up buying a movie, because I'm like, oh, I don't have that. I'm going to take that, and it
that
before
way,
you know it,
when they remove it from your streaming place, you can say, you know what,
you still have it. Yep.
Very good.
I never have to worry about it.
Well, all right, Ed, thank you so much, and we appreciate it. And we look forward to what you got coming up post-COVID, and again, thank you so much.
Posted.
Yes, please keep us too.
Guys. I will.
All right, sir. Thank you.
All right, it's been fun.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Oh, man, that was fun.
It was.
I felt like I was, not in a bad way, I feel like I was, being lectured to by a professor. I was just kind of soaking it all in, and you don't hear from producers a lot. Because they're way in the background. They don't get a lot of the glory, such as the directors and cinematographers and stuff. But, a producer really can make a movie. They're making sure the director can do their job. You don't want the director,
especially at that level,
Yeah.
You don't want level. They're crucial.
Yeah. You don't want a director coming on set wondering, do I have enough money to shoot tomorrow? The director's going to continue going forward until they're told otherwise, or they're done. And producers, you kind of you got to get good at it, but you have to understand how a movie set works and how the fundraising aspect works. And the end result is, okay, we're making the movie, but then you got to get it out. And they're thinking 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 steps ahead. Just like Ed said, he's making phone calls a couple of days out because he knows that that's going to get done. The director's like, okay, what's my shot list for the next day?
You know what it is? It's the 100% least sexiest position on the film set. I mean, everybody else is in makeup or,
Yeah. And sometimes they got to be the bad guy and say, no, you don't have the money for it. They have to say, no, we don't have the ability to raise more money. We have to get the film shot in X days. And this is your crew. This is your equipment. This is your cast. And, it's to make sure that it gets done and that they don't go over budget and that they adjust. They really have to adjust on the fly, because if something happens, it's on them to go find another location or another, hey, call and get another truck, or we need a driver. They're really kind of a general on the battlefield.
Before we get out of here, I want to take a minute to talk about our next show coming up, which is will be our Tales from the Dark Side event with Rusty Cundiff and Professor Audrey Morell. And I think Matt and I are going to be kind of in the background on this one, just kind of directing traffic, but it should be an incredibly interesting event, and there's no telling who is going to be stopping by for this one. I've heard some incredible names dropped, so we shall see.
Yeah, the word is out. I know Rusty is very excited. Tales from the Hood 3 dropped on Blu-ray this week. I already saw people on Facebook watching it and talking about it. I'm looking forward to watching it. Yeah, Eric and I are just going to kind of help facilitate. This is through the Honors College out in Pittsburgh. It's their event in conjunction with us here at the Garf, but I'm really excited to be a part of this and getting a chance to talk to Rusty. And like Eric said, you never know who's going to show up. There's a lot of people that are excited for this movie and Rusty, that I think this is going to be a really fun event. They're going to, I think, show some clips. There's a whole lot of stuff going on. You guys tune back in here on Saturday the 17th at 7. And nice nice mid-October night. I think you guys are gonna have a blast. This has been our first show, and we're kind of like we're being shot out of a cannon in October.
Yeah, it's the season. And I appreciate you correcting me. I did say Tales from the Dark Side. It is indeed Tales from the Hood, director Rusty Cundiff. However, you will forgive me when I say our following event is actually a Tales from the Dark Side event. Details forthcoming. But up next is the event on the 17th, Tales from the Hood. And there's actually been a part 2 and a part 3. Did you say part 3 just dropped?
Part 3 dropped yesterday.
Okay.
Yep. So again, streaming, grab the Blu-ray. Give it a look. Tony Todd's in that one. That was co-directed, I think, by Rusty and Darren Scott. So a lot of good stuff coming from us, guys. We, like you said, Tales from the Dark Side as well. We got to pack stuff, so please go to the GeorgeARomero.Foundation.org. Visit the Garf Facebook page. We have a lot of stuff to post. Sign up for the newsletter. Newsletter comes out quarterly. Lots of good updates. We want to keep you guys engaged. And again, give us feedback. Post about the show. Tell us, what you want, who you want us to talk to. We're really trying to celebrate George's legacy and independent filmmaking. We love independent films. I think that's the reason why we're here. We all saw an independent film, and we loved it before we knew it was an independent film. We just saw a movie we loved. And, we're hoping to, maybe, someone is inspired tonight to go finally make their movie. And you never know what that movie's going to end up becoming.
Could be the next Night of the Living Dead. Who knows?
Yeah.
You never know till you try.
Go through those gems that are on Netflix and Amazon Prime. I don't know, go click on that. That's half the fun, is discovering these films. You never know what you're going to end up with as long as you give it a chance. And I'm glad we had Ed tonight, because that was, like I said, I was really looking forward to hearing from his perspective tonight. And I'm glad we got a little bit of insight into indie filmmaking in 2020.
100%. Well, I think that's going to be it for episode 1. We're really excited about this, and we thank everybody for joining us. But until the 17th, I am Eric.
And I'm Matt.
And we'll see you next time on the Garf Network.
Take care.
Emergency. You are tuned to the emergency station.